Hi!
Hello. What's up?
Today we'll be talking about the origins of the historic musical genre of jazz, an important part of the cultural past of the United States of America. From roughly the 1920s to the 1960s, jazz was extremely popular worldwide and helped kickstart the music industry as we know it today. Jazz spread from North America to Europe, Latin America, Asia, and beyond, and its influence in the culture of the time is hard to overstate. It's your line.
I don't like your tone here, bro.
Oh, for Pete's sake. The start of the jazz era saw a number of musical influences come together.
It wasn't a jazz era.
Look, we know people still play jazz.
That's not what I mean, dude.
Although jazz dance fads like the Charleston are a thing of the past.
Bro, what's the latest dance fad?
What? Just read the prompter. You mean the sex flamingo? The sex flamingo? Yeah, you step real high and then... you upload a video of you doing it. Mine got a bunch of hits. You don't even have legs.
What's the music like?
It's dubstep, basically.
Bro, there's a direct line back from dubstep to jazz.
What? Oh, come on.
Jazz is dubstep's grandfather.
You're crazy.
Okay, maybe great-grandfather, bro.
Wait, what? How?
Look, bro, dubstep's basically a combination of electronic music, rap beats, and the sounds a blender makes, right?
Sure.
Rap beats are like a slow-down, studio-based offshoot of hip-hop. But hip-hop started with a much faster music played at DJ parties in New York, bro.
Hip-hop isn't jazz.
Like I said, way back, hip-hop was mostly fast music. Basically US stuff like funk, disco, and rock. But bro, it was all played using Jamaican DJ techniques.
What?
DJ Kool Herc more or less started the ball rolling in the US with DJing, backspins and all that. And that was a huge evolution in music. But back in the culture of his native Jamaica, that kind of DJing wasn't unheard of, dude. Playing with turntables and primitive looping had been a thing in Kingston for a while. They do it with reggae and other stuff.
Reggae isn't jazz.
Like I said, it came from jazz, bro.
Reggae came from jazz?
Reggae is more or less slowed down ska, which again has a fast tempo. But ska, actually comes from old school rock and roll.
What? How does that work?
Radio stations in the US would play rock and roll, but speakers in Jamaica weren't always the best at first, bro. On a lot of them, the low frequencies wouldn't play, and you couldn't hear the kick drum. So the signal would be like, boom bap, but people would hear bap, bap. And that's how ska started.
But rock and roll, that was its own thing, right?
Nah, bro. Rock and roll became a thing when a jazz subgenre named jump blues was played with an electric guitar.
What?
Jump blues was just like early rock, bro. You just played it with jazz instruments. And jump blues is 100% jazz. It evolved directly from the jazz that was born in New Orleans.
So jazz became rock with the electric guitar, rock became Jamaican ska because of bad speakers, Jamaican DJs brought hip-hop DJing to New York, and hip-hop is one of dubstep's main ingredients?
Yeah, bro.
That's complicated, and I'm not sure that really makes
Fine, dude. Jazz met funk in the 70s, jazz funk samples are why rap beats sound like they do, and dubstep comes from that.
Whatever. What does this have to do with flamingo sex? It's a sex flamingo, not...
Look, dude, jazz may not be as popular as it was in the 20s, but it's the root of so much modern music that like let's say you have a boogie boarding school.
Boogie boarding?
Look, if you taught 50 dudes to boogie board, and they each taught 50 dudes to boogie board, you'd have a lot of people that learn from you teaching.
Okay.
If you have that many people doing something you taught, your style is still there. Even if you're not at the front of it, it comes from you.
Oh, gotcha. So it's like jazz taught today's music to boogie board? Isn't boogie boarding something only kids do?
Say that again, bro. I will cut you.
What?
You wouldn't last a day in the water.
Wait, what would you cut me with?
Hey, you want to find out?
Guys, we've got a show to do. So jazz was a full-fledged genre by the mid-1910s, but before that...
Bottom line, bro. The universe of music today has jazz at its core. And that's why this history is super important.
Okay, before the 1910s, the musical ingredients that would come together to form jazz were very distinct. The influence of ragtime music is obvious, and elements of the blues are pretty apparent in jazz song structures. In addition, gospel music's tradition of call and response has many parallels in jazz, and it would be impossible to ignore the influence of traditional African drumming as practiced by... At this point, we need to make clear that we'll be talking some about the transatlantic slave trade, But we do that with the utmost respect for those affected and don't intend to minimize the significance of the continued suffering of African-descended peoples worldwide. This human rights tragedy resulted in the structure of our modern world, and for that reason we feel we'd be doing a disservice to history if we ignored it when it came up.
As far as this episode, the history of jazz is nothing without the history of slavery, so it's for that reason that we reference it.
Well, we just got canceled.
Bro, if actual history pisses people off, we're gonna piss people off.
Actual history is always going to piss people off. Until the early 1800s, African traditions stayed alive in a field outside New Orleans, now paved over and known as Congo Square. On Sundays, their day off, slaves would gather there and participate in African music forms from all over the continent would blend here, adding to the foundation of jazz. But there are two lesser-known ingredients in jazz that are worth bringing up in addition to ragtime, the blues, gospel, and African rhythms.
Right, and the first would be music played at funerals in New Orleans. Wait, funerals?
It was basically marching music.
Right, sort of like what bands play at parades.
Oh, whoa, those use a lot of jazz instruments, huh? Yeah, that's because people playing in marching bands would play those same instruments at shows on the side.
But like, back then wakes were pretty like somber, right? But sometimes during the march, musicians would do something crazy. Like this thing that may never have happened before in the West.
Something so mind-blowing, so innovative, that it changed music forever.
Oh my god, what was it? They improvised, bro.
Wait, what?
At certain points during the processions, musicians would do like tiny solos. It was a practice in Nigeria, as well as other parts of West Africa, to like celebrate death. That's probably where the New Orleans jazz funeral comes from. And these little improvisations, dude, they were kind of the first step towards those jazz funerals.
That's it? Isn't improvisation really common? Like guitar solos are that, right? That depends on the guitarist, but yeah, improvisation is a common thing today. But back in the 1800s, it was revolutionary.
Yeah, dude, this was before like albums. Musicians bought sheet music the way we buy albums today, dude.
Sheet music? You look at a sheet and you play the music on it.
Right, and there was no room for improvisation on those sheets. So at these funerals, musicians tossing in a little improvisation, it was like huge. And yeah, like dude said, musicians would play wakes or other events for day jobs and then play gigs at night. So marching music had a huge influence on jazz.
Okay, another lesser known ingredient of jazz would be Latin American rhythms, specifically those of Cuba. Wait, I thought jazz was just a US thing. Yeah, a lot of people think that.
Bro, the craziest thing is that Cuban music didn't even come to New Orleans direct from Cuba.
What?
In 1885, New Orleans hosted this event called the World Cotton Centennial, sort of a big fair, and a lot of countries came and participated. One of the biggest exhibitions was Mexico's, and they brought a cavalry band that was supposed to be like a highlight of the whole thing.
And they played several songs with the Cuban habanera rhythm, and that would influence jazz.
Wait, what? A Mexican army band was part of how jazz started? Totally. It was like that Sex Pistols show in Manchester that kickstarted post-punk. It was just a single gig that totally changed history.
Manchester in England? That's a completely different story.
Right, but anyway, like, the band performing wasn't half of it, bro. People printed sheet music of songs they played, and those sold a ton of copies. That and some of the musicians moved to New Orleans after, dude.
Okay, but is that a fact? That Cuban rhythms influenced jazz?
Look, it was one of a ton of influences, but yeah, bro. Jelly Roll Morton even said that a Spanish tinge was necessary for jazz. And he meant a Latin American tinge. It's not like a famous fact, but it's a fact, bro.
Anyway, at this point we should talk about Buddy Bolden. Jelly Roll Morton was probably the first person to write jazz down, and he also played early jazz piano in brothels in the New Orleans red light district known as Storyville. But Buddy Bolden's skill as a horn player and arranger may have had a bigger impact on jazz.
So like actual Storyville, where Jelly Roll Morton played, right? That catered to white patrons, and black Johns weren't allowed in those brothels. But there was a black Storyville where African American men went to see prostitutes, and that is basically where jazz was born, bro.
In a church.
Bro, it was like a church during the day. At night, it was Funky Butt Hall.
You mean Union Sons Hall? Come on.
Dude, no one called it that.
Whoa, what? Funky Butt Hall? That's a serious jazz landmark. Treat it with respect. But really? Like, Funky Butt Hall?
What? Jazz wasn't gonna be born in an opera house, dude.
That's true. It was considered a rough dance music back then. Anyway, Buddy Bolden's gigs at Funky Butt Hall were arguably where the ingredients that made up jazz came together.
Bolden was a showman too, though. Supposedly he was like a Jimi Hendrix or Prince skill-wise, right? And would blow his horn really, really loud, but also really, really well. Like, he was half a rock star, and then half, like, invented jazz.
I mean, he did die in an insane asylum.
Right, dude, total rock star.
Only one picture of Bolden is known to exist, and the Funky Butt Hall was torn down in the 1950s. Wait, really?
Yeah, bro, not much of the physical history remains. But someone people will recognize lived across the street from Funky Butt Hall when he was a kid. Louis Armstrong, and like, he grew up hearing Buddy Bolden play.
Whoa, crazy! Anyway, that was the rambling story of how jazz began, and why it's still important today.
I mean, boogie boarding started in a pretty crazy way too, bro.
What?
Like, a bunch of pirates, they shipwrecked off Indonesia, right, bro? And they used pieces of their boat.
That definitely didn't happen.
Dude, tell that to Mad Boogie Thomas. He's where the name boogie board.
Wait, boogie boards are made of foam.
Dude, used to be they were made of jagged glass and nightmares, bro. At first, boogie boarders got eaten by sharks every day. We used to fight.
What is wrong with you? This is about jazz.
Oh, like, you never go off topic, bro.
When I do, it's not stupid stories about boogie boarding. And you're making them up.
I swear, dude, you're